Thank you and good morning. Um, what we're here to talk about today, or what I'm here to help you understand, is about how you can have a strategic business model. And if we unpick that, it's a business model which says it's something that describes your business, how it works, and it is strategic. So what that means is it's forward-looking and it may not address individual tender responses or individual responses, but what it should do is paint a picture for you that says, this is how I need to go about it. This is what I need to think about so that you can come up with the answers. So in this morning's session, what we're going to do is there'll be an introduction, a single slide on me because I'm not that important, a little bit about Branduin, which is the organisation that is bringing you this Fit to Bid series and this webinar. And then the major part of this morning will be encouraging you to think and to write things down and to come up with some things that will help you in the future. So by the end of the seminar, you should have a few pages of things that you can take away and you can use immediately. And you will also be encouraged to do the follow-on step from this webinar, which is to book a one-to-one session with an advisor like myself. Probably won't be me, but it'll be an advisor like myself, and we'll come to all of that a little bit later. So as you can see, the picture might have been taken a little while ago, but I think in some ways that's good because I've been doing this sort of thing for many years. I had been a corporate director, so in a pretty big company, and big companies have a habit of working well because they have the fortunate position that they can have a marketing person, a salesperson, a operations person, a this, that, and the other person. And of course, I know that in small businesses, that's very different. There are typically one, two, three, half a dozen people doing all those same jobs that a big corporate does. I've spent the last 15 years doing exactly this, working with business owners to help them make their businesses bigger, better, and stronger, to understand individually within the business what's working well and what can be improved. And as you can see on the third bullet, I've been program manager for Hillingdon, where we exceeded all of our targets, which was great. We helped more people than we set out to do. And I've also worked on other things. So there's a constructions supply chain back in 21 to 23. There was a Hounslow Fit to Bid. Um, and before that, there was a Peer Networks program, which was delivered in Hertfordshire. So again, to hundreds and hundreds of people. And I've worked with some of the big names in the supermarkets and other places. So hopefully I have a lot of experience which you will be able to share, or I will be able to share. We both share it today. Um, the slide here is one that Branduin is particularly proud of, and we are always told to tell anyone who's listening, did you know it took nearly 20 years to make this slide? And then we add in, not because we're pretty poor at PowerPoint, but because we've been building relationships for a very, very long time. At the top, you can see the councils that we are doing business with or have done business with. In the middle, you see all of the chambers that we collaborate with because they're a very important part of the local business community in the areas where they operate. And then at the bottom, you can see that we're working with other partners who also want to help their local communities. So Heathrow is one that is happening now. Some of you may have been to the Heathrow Summit that was a week or two ago, and there is something called the SME Academy. So that's a very, very current thing that we are doing. And also we are proud to say that if you go onto the Gov UK website and you look up helpful things for business, you will see we are there. So this program, if you like, is recommended by the government and is understood for the value it gives. I mentioned on that big slide with all the logos on that we are working for lots of local councils, and those ones in the pictures there are the ones that we are currently working with. So that's the end of the introduction. And if we look at kind of what's the point? What am I trying to get across today? And what I want to do today, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is to give you a strategy, to give you tools that will help. Because where most people start is that number one, where you can say, we engage with procurement. And you say, yep, that's a great idea. That is the starting place. But what does it mean? How do we engage? What do we say? What do we do? How does it work? And that's what we're going to uncover some of the steps today, because here, this is where you have met successfully, you have made contact, and you will need to use bidding skills. And these are some of the things that we'll look at today. This is an icon about a business model canvas, which we discussed today. And when you've got these two things working well, you are now in a position to know what you're going to sell, who you're going to sell it to, why they are going to want to listen to you. So you have the meeting and you may have to write it down. You may have to put all of these good things into a tender that you want to win. And if you're at this afternoon's Meet the Buyer event, which will be happening near Rayners Lane, this is a golden opportunity for you to meet people face to face. So this actually takes you all the way back to over here, where you engage with procurement at a Meet the Buyer so that you can go along this journey, get to the tendering piece. They already know who you are. You stand a great chance of winning. So that's what we want to try and cover in this next hour. So this tool, this thing, I think of it as an A4 piece of paper, but it is immensely powerful. It has a name, you can see at the top there, Business Model Canvas. You can read here for yourself that it is a template. It will take you through a series of activities in a carefully measured and exceptionally well thought through way. And by the way, I didn't invent it, but you can probably tell I'm an enthusiastic user of it because it works very well. So on the right hand side, this is all about the customer or your prospective customer. So we talk about who they are, we talk about how we can build relationships, we talk about how we contact them. And in the middle here, slightly covered up, is this thing called a value proposition. And that's immensely important. And I can see some questions coming up on the chat. So the short answer, the question, I beg your pardon, the question is, do we get a copy of this template? And I believe the answer is yes. I have a backroom person called Lisa, who I hope is listening, and I'm going to ask Lisa if we send the presentations out to everybody that turns up. But I hope the answer is yes. It should be a yes. Um, so over here we have the customer side, and I was talking about the value proposition, and this is key. You make one value proposition for one customer or one customer type. And we'll come on to why that is and how powerful that is later. So the next piece of the business model canvas is essentially asking, can we do it? We've made a promise that we will sell something, perhaps something quite big and quite clever, to a hopefully big and important customer. Can we do it? Have we got the resources? Do we know what each individual piece part will cost? Do we know what the main activities are? And do we know how to diarise them? And will we have enough people, vans, machines, whatever it is we need to do those activities? And every business should have key partners. So all of your suppliers, or the suppliers you like working with, the ones that help you the most, should be your key partners. And again, we'll take a look at them and see how they can help you do your business better. And say here, this piece, this is the value proposition where everything ties together. And at the bottom here, what we've done here is we've said this is how much it's going to cost you to provide the service or the product that you're offering. And over here, we are looking at income. How much are you going to charge? Because if you charge more than it costs you to do it, and you know what your costs are, you'll make money. and that's good for you and it's good for your customer. So, what is your business model? Well, we've said here on the business model canvas, we look at desirability. That's the right-hand customer piece. Why does our customer want to buy from us? What have we got that is going to attract his attention and say yes? Then when he does or before he does, we've checked we can do it. We've checked we can make money at it. So those are incredibly fundamental. But if we take a look at it from a different perspective, we keep those three things. So we have the desirability, we have the feasibility, and we know we can make money. But something else creeps in. Adaptability. Adaptability is if your customer says, "Ah, yeah, I kind of like it, but can you just make changes?" Or if things happen in your supply chain that make things a little bit tricky, can you adapt? Are you flexible? And if we go through these, they're just saying what I've just said. We adapt to what our customers need. We almost predict what they would want next. And now everybody knows about purpose. And purpose is another word for ESG, which is talking about why do we care? What do we care about? Because the bigger the company that you will be working with or want to work with, the more questions they will ask you about ESG. How do you care for the planet? How do you measure your own carbon footprint? Do you measure your own carbon footprint? What's your waste program? How much do you throw away? Can you reuse things? Do you reuse things? Do you have LED lighting and low energy ways of doing things? Have you thought about it? And are you doing your little bit to care for the planet? And do you know about your supply chain? What do they do to care for the planet? It's becoming ever more important. So that's the background of what we need to do. So rather than, you know, it's a very old expression, and nobody smokes anymore, but, you know, the expression, I've worked it out on the back of a fag packet, so I've got a few sketches. The more polite version is gut-based instinct, where people make decisions. And it's going away from that to saying, well, let's look at the evidence, let's look at the facts, let's be guided by sensible things, because that will give us a sustainable business. And here, the word sustainable means your business will carry on. You know what you're doing, you know how to do it, you know how much it costs, and you know you're going to make a profit. That puts you in a very powerful position. So that's a business model canvas with a few words next to each of the key headings, and we'll go through them in turn. I'll leave them up there just for a second. But customer segments, customer segment is a group of people that behave the same way. So when you create your value proposition, it's going to be broadly the same for that customer segment. What you do will remain the same. If you say, I'm a car wash, you always wash cars, but the value proposition will be different for different people because the value proposition describes the benefits to them. It's not what you do, it's the benefits you give them. Because if we stop and think for a minute about when do I buy something? How does someone successfully get me, Charlie, to buy something? And the answer is I buy because I want it or because I need it. So in commercial terms, usually people know what they need and they're looking for what's commonly called the most advantageous price. Who can give me best value at the best price? Some people don't know they need it, or they don't understand why they need it. So if you can explain why they need it and how the benefits will help them make their job easier, quicker, or cheaper, they will say, aha, I want it now, I understand. So you have both. They need it and they want it from you. And that's where we want to get to today. So we've said about feasibility, we've said about viability, so let's crack on. This is where you start to join in. What we're going to do, we're going to run through the building blocks. I'll try and go through the words on the slide fairly quickly. And what we will do is I will ask you some questions and I will pause so that you can write down the answers as they pertain to you. Um, so, by the way, thank you for more inbound questions. I'll go to the end and cover them then because I should be able to do that if we have enough time. So keep adding the questions. So, what is a customer segment? As I mentioned briefly a moment ago, it's it's a bunch of people who behave the same. So, for instance, a local authority, a local council is a customer segment. All local authorities behave in approximately the same manner. They are typically all looking for the same things. So if you can figure out how to get to the person in one council, there's a very high chance you can say that thing again to a person in another council and you'll have a similar level of success. You need to understand what your customer segments are. And because you need to put yourself in their shoes, you will need to understand why they're different and you need to understand what they're looking for. And the better you can define the segment, the better your value proposition will look. So if we're looking at the tendering situation, it's very simple. The customer segment is one. It is the person who sent you the tender. So we've said a customer segment should need to want your products and pay your prices. And this is really, really important because there's a lot of talk, especially when dealing with local government, that, well, they always go for the cheapest. And whilst I agree that the pound notes that they have to pay out will be typically specified, they want best price, they've now changed to a different term, and it's most advantageous value tender, MAVT. So they are now understanding that if they pay a little bit more money, they will get a better result, hopefully. So if you can show them the value of what you do, then providing the cost is not ridiculously high, they will take a very serious look at what you're proposing. And yes, of course you have to be competitive, but if you've got something good, then you should not be giving it away. If if somebody asks you for something and you feel, oh, I don't know, it's not really our sweet spot. We might be able to do it. No, my recommendation is put your brave pants on and say, I'm sorry, we don't do that. Because if you try and do something that is not one of your core things, the outcome is that you're likely to do it badly. It is likely to cost you more than you thought it would because there are unforeseen challenges and problems because it's not your core business. And so profitability is likely to be less, or you may even make a loss doing it. And then nobody wins. Your customer is going to feel, it's not perfect, and you're going to feel it's not perfect. And it's just going to be a miserable experience for everybody. So decline it and look for something that is really you. So when you know who you do want to have as your customers, in your customer segment, focus on the benefits that you deliver. And I love car analogies. And if I said to you, imagine this picture. There's a garage, a car lot, whatever you want to call it, a field, a place full of second-hand motor cars, all polished and all looking lovely. The core business, and let's pretend it's my car lot, my core business is selling cars, but my customer segments will vary. Imagine, for those of you who are as old as me, imagine there's something called an E-Type Jaguar, polished and gleaming in the middle of my car lot. The people who want that are people who have more money than sense, and they love to wash it and take it out on a sunny day. Perfect customer. I can sell this thing for so much money to them. But those people are few and far between. Another segment is somebody who needs a car, excuse me, to commute. So doesn't need to be very big, needs to be very economical, needs to have a good heater, and as long as it's reliable, that's all I care about. That's another segment. Core business is still the same, selling motor cars. And then there's another segment of the busy person who needs to do a school run, needs to take the kids away, needs to do the shopping, needs to get to work himself or herself, and they've got lots to do, and blah, blah, blah. So that's going to be a slightly different car. Might be a little bit more comfortable, might be a little bit bigger, um, and so on and so on. So what you do is your core business. The benefits you give to people are dependent on the segment you are addressing at the time. So now, questions for you. Who are you creating value or benefit for? So now's the time. Get your iPad, your pen, your pencil, whatever it is you use to sketch notes. What is it who is it you create value for? And why do they go, wow, wow, I need one of those from you? So you'll see the big box come up in a second. If you're doing a tender, which is probably the most strategic way of winning business, who sent the tender? So which type of business do you want to get tenders from? Who will read it? So is it the person who sent it out that needs to be told absolutely everything about you? Is it the chief executive who might get to it? Probably not. It's probably someone who knows nothing about you, so you need to explain it. And what is it they need? What is it you will provide them with? And let me give you another example. Why do we buy a drill? Because we don't really want a drill, do we? You buy a drill, it's a completely pointless piece of equipment unless you want a hole. So when you buy a drill, that's what they sell you. What you want is a hole. Have a think about that. So I'm going to pause 60 seconds, not saying much, for you to answer the questions. Who is your target customer, client, type, whatever you want to write down, but have a think about it. If I could get to, who would that be? Who would you love to have as a client? And why do you think they'd be interested in dealing with you? Okay. Not quite a minute, but I'm going to move on. So what we're doing now, we are at the early stages of building a value proposition. But before we build it, as I said a few moments ago, we need to know who it's for. Let's pretend it's the person at the council. What do they want? Well, they want to understand about you because they need to be able to trust you. They need to feel reassured. They need you to put a little bit of fat on the bone. And what they do not need is you talking 10 to the dozen. We've got a very good thing and it's very good for you. And you know what? And it's really technical and it's so clever and it works really well. And you know what? And there's a server and there's this and there's that and the other. And I have not stopped talking and I haven't taken a breath and I haven't listened to you and I don't want to. Doesn't work very well like that, does it? See these things here? Listen. Ask questions. Put yourself in the shoes of the person that you want to do business with and have a think. Going back to my car lot description, if I see somebody coming in and it's a person perhaps a little bit younger than me, and they walk in past this fabulous ancient sports car, vintage sports car, how do they look at it? So I'm now listening with my eyes. How do they look at it? Is there a fondness? Do they want to stroke the glistening paintwork? Or do they just walk past it, just plah, plah, plah? Because that gives me a huge amount of input. They're saying with their body language, if it's the one who strokes it, I love it, I want it. And if they go straight past it to the more sensible cars, then again, they're giving a very clear message. So what we need to do is put ourselves in their shoes. What are they looking for? Is it the latest, greatest? Is it something that's tried and tested? Can you show me figures, data, whatever it might be that says it will work for you? We've built 10,000 of these. We know they work. Here are customer testimonials. So next 1 minute stop. Oh, sorry, no, I've got a little bit more to do. So value. Value and benefits are kind of one and the same thing. Value tends to have a pound note measure against it, and benefits are things that make their lives easier, quicker, cheaper, or maybe all of the above. And has the customer actually come to you with a problem and says, look, I need this? I was recently working on one of these, and it was for the care sector. The council said, we want people to run care homes or to provide care. They didn't use the word care homes. They said, we need people to provide care for the elderly in our borough. Hmm, that's a big problem. How are you going to solve it? Do you have care homes that you can accept people into? Do you have members of staff in your team who can go to the elderly in their own home? Maybe that's a better alternative. Hmm. Maybe they have different costs. How are you going to look at this? Clearly, different cost benefits for each type of solution. And what are you helping the customer to get done? Because, again, going back to the care home analogy, it might be that the people cannot live at home. They just cannot. They are sufficiently old. They need so much help every day. You just can't have someone there visiting them. They have to be a live-in carer. So let's put them in a home. That's the best way. A place that's designed to give lovely, lovely care to these people who need it. So are we satisfying the customer needs? Well, yes. But if we look at the care home analogy, it needs to be safe. It needs to be warm. Well, what does safe mean? Well, it's got key locks on the doors. It should be reasonably accessible for their friends and relatives. Okay, yeah, that's nice. So what is it? What are the needs of the customer? Because in this instance, the customer is the elderly person who is going to be looked after, but the customer is also the council who is going to be providing the care, and yet they don't. It's going to be subbed out to you. So fairly complex things to think about because the council want to hear how you will look after the old people. And what else do you offer? One particular people, they said, we'll bring their phone number with them because many old people still have a landline. And can you imagine if you move them in from house to a care home and you hadn't thought about it, you might say, oh no, we'll give you a new phone number when you get here. Phone reception will put you through to the room. But those old people will have friends who know their home phone number. What if you could say, we will bring in the phone number to the care home so it rings in their room? Oh, wow. That's nice. Wow. You've put yourself in the customer's shoes. You've thought about something that technically is a teeny weeny thing, but the benefit it gives to the person in the care home is massive. All their friends can just ring them on the number they've got, because they're not going to tell everybody, oh, by the way, I've just moved into a care home. So they keep their friends. Wow, that's a huge benefit. And that's the sort of thing we want to be thinking about. What are the benefits you give the customer when you offer your service? So the big question, what are they asking for? And what what is it that you provide? So by thinking in the way of the customer and the client, what is it that will give them the benefits? Because something we mentioned earlier, we'll come back to it later. There are one-to-ones. A one-to-one is 1 hour that you spend with a business advisor like me, and I've done it to loads and loads and loads of customers, businesses. And when I talk to them, I say, and they'll tell me what they do. And I'll say, oh, so does that also mean that? Think about what you do and think about the benefits. And it's going to be hard because it's ingrained. It's what you do every day. It's normal. Business as usual. But pick out the benefits. So what I'll do now, I'll shut up and I'll give you a few minutes to think about the benefits that you give your customers. And if you feel like putting some of these in the chat, you can do. I wouldn't mind at all. Okay, let's move on. Revenue streams. It's money that comes in. And you've probably heard me referring to clients rather than customers. Because to me, a customer is someone who buys a pint of milk. He knows what he wants, he comes in, he has it, gives over the money, that's it, job done. Little or no conversation involved, little or no interaction involved, and so absolutely zero relationship. Whereas a client is someone where the client knows the supplier knows the customer. So think of somewhere you go to buy something and you are greeted with a warm smile. The person behind the counter recognizes you. Yeah. In the old days, it might be the morning newspaper. You'd go to the newsstand, and as as you walk up to it, the person, the man or lady behind the newsstand might say, "Hello, Charlie. Here you go." And they've already folded the paper in half. They're handing it to you, and you hand them the money. A very small, simple relationship, but it makes you feel good. They recognize you, they greet you by name, you have your thing ready, and you're happy to pay for it. You might even walk past other newsagents to get to that one because they greet you by name, because they know which newspaper you read, because they care about you. So, what we're looking for in revenue streams here is how do we make sure that we have a relationship? Because that helps people trust you. And if people trust you, they're much more likely to buy from you. And so we're thinking, well, how can we how can we use that to add value? What would they really like to pay? Can we get them to be repeat customers? And also, how much can we grow them as our customer? If they buy one thing, can we get them to buy another? Yeah, McDonald's are famous for their "Would you like that large, sir?" What they're trying to do, and what they do very successfully, is get you to buy a meal rather than just a burger. And if you do buy a meal rather than just a burger, they then say, "And would you like that to go large, sir? It includes a drink, whatever, whatever, whatever." So you go in thinking, "Oh, buy me a £1.50 burger," and you've come out spending £6 or £7 with a whole meal with a drink. And that's again, that's them doing this at a fantastically good level with every single customer because they don't know who you are and they don't actually care. They just want you to spend more money with them. So imagine what would happen if they actually knew who you were and you got greeted. So a question you need to ask is, can they afford what I do? Go right back to the beginning. This is strategic thinking here. Can they afford what I do? Because if the answer is no, it doesn't matter how good your thing is. It doesn't matter how long it's going to last. And it doesn't matter that it's better than everything else. Because if they've got a not to exceed price, so they'll tell you in their tender, your tender submission must come in at less than da 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 da. If you know to do a proper job, to deliver your quality of materials or product or service will cost you more than their not to exceed price, this is the place to stop because you cannot win. It's a waste of time. So maybe you look at, can I offer a different value set? Da, 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 da. But if you also remember what I said a little while ago, if you can't make money at it comfortably, don't do it. Go for something that's better. So understand what they want and think about how you can meet their value proposition or their value request. Looking at channels, a channel is simply a, a word that describes how you communicate. So as you can see on the top there, an in-house channel could be a salesperson. It could be a sales desk where telephone calls come into. It could be your website because that's where people might come and look and see what do you do, who are you, how long have you been in business, can I trust you, should I trust you? Um, and you may have a physical place where you do business. You might have a shop, you might have a factory, you might have a showroom. And these are great. And typically, because they're relatively expensive to have, they will be able to generate higher margins. If people talk to people, they like that these days. Far too much happens online, and most people love to have a conversation and they're happy to pay for that personal touch and that personal interaction that will answer all of their questions. You can also have what are termed indirect channels. So if you are somebody that goes to a place like Costco, that's a great big wholesale distribution warehouse. It does what it does at a certain price point, but it's kind of huge, isn't it? And you can see how it works and you can understand it and you can buy into it and you can say, well, I'll go there for certain things because they're good value, but it's kind of take it or leave it really. There's no one to discuss it with. They might have a great returns policy, so if you don't like it, you can take it back and oh, it's a load of faff. But what it does quite well. It gives Costco the opportunity to have a low cost base for their transactions. And they're always busy, aren't they? So they have a good product mix, they know what their customers want, they have it on the shelves, and it flies off. So it's good. So, questions for you. What's the best way for you to do your business? What channel, sales channel, should you use to sell the goods? And also in terms of communication, how do you actually get in touch with the people you want to sell your product to? As a for instance, I had a lady who was doing hair and beauty, and we discussed social media, and she said, "Yeah, I do social media. I do lots of that." And I very unkindly asked her, "How much business does your social media bring in? How many new customers each week?" Don't bring in any. Don't know why I do it really, actually. And so I suggested to her, if you've got children, yes, design a flyer, an old-fashioned piece of paper with, this is what I do, look at me, don't I look great? And give that to people who are at the school gates waiting to take their children in and out of school. So a channel is an effective way of you getting your message across. For her, it was meeting other mums at the school gate. That was her channel. And we talked about borrowing other people's children and going to different schools, and so you extend it. But it's thinking about, where do the people I want to sell to, where do they hang out? What do they read? What do they do? How do I get in front of them? And by the way, meet the buyer is also a good answer. And it has an important job. It's to get you away from the no pile. Again, if we look at tenders, if I'm the person receiving the tender submissions, I look at them and it's no, 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 maybe. No, no, maybe. You need to get onto the maybe pile. So if we look at customer relationships here, again, strategically, do you want to be the person just selling pints of milk? Or do you want to have something that's longer term? Do you want to be able to know your customers? And a CRM system can help you understand that, and you can contact them without it taking up a great deal of your time. Um, or do you want something that's much more automated? Do you want to be a Costco? Do you want to have things there? Customers help themselves. They give you the money, they go, they're happy, you're happy. Where do you want to be? Because if you understand how your customers want to buy from you, am I a Costco customer, or would I rather go to a tailor's shop or a clothes shop to buy my clothes? Do I want to try things on before I buy them? What is your customer like? Put yourselves in their shoes and understand it. So again, yeah, with tendering, we're looking at who issues it, who reads it, who do you need to get to? So moving on now, away from the customer piece, we think we've drilled down into our customer, we know them. And key activities are, what are the things you actually need to do to deliver it? If the order landed on your desk tomorrow, it's a, woohoo, great, I just got this huge order. But I don't actually know how I'm going to deliver it. Um, it used to be very common in the construction industry. They would know that, a single story extension at the back of a house costs so many pounds per square meter. So they'd ask you how big the extension is, multiplied by a cost, and off you go. That's an estimate. Except it didn't work because there wasn't enough detail. They didn't understand really what was involved. So tended not to work. So what are your key activities? If you think about the processes, customer gives me the order, what do I do? Do I pick it up off a shelf in a warehouse and pack it? Do I have to build it? Do I have to get raw materials in? Do I deliver a service that needs people? So if I get a big order in for that service, do I need to hire more people? Do I need to spread it out? Do the people need to travel? Do I need to hire more vehicles, more vans, more whatever it is? What is it you need to do in terms of your activities in order to deliver? So just what I said there. If I won the tender, do I know now how I would deliver it? Do I know now what extra things I would need to get in order to deliver a big piece of work? And if you know what needs to be done, what do you need in order to do it? And the details are there. Plant, machinery, more people. Um, do you need people who have certain types of qualities? But resources are, what do you need in order to do what you need to do? So a resource gives you the ability to do what has to be done. Key activities. Yeah, that's the difference. So just ask yourself the questions, not now, but think about, wow, if I won this huge, great order, what would I need to do? Who would help me to do it? And can I get more advantageous pricing? Because if you normally buy from a supplier and this order would allow you to buy twice as much from the supplier, how about you pick up the phone and say, hey, if I win this order, would you give me better pricing? And I'm not going to ask for better pricing until I win the order. But if I give this order and buy twice as much from you, can you give me a better price? Because if he says yes, he or she says yes, Guess what? You feed that into your value proposition and say, for a job of this size, I can offer you preferential pricing. And so they feel happy because you thought about them. So, resources, have you got them? Do you need them? And how many extra ones do you need in order to win the job? And this, again, this is about strategic thinking. It's about thinking ahead. It's about knowing the answers to all the questions that could possibly come up. So, you might need partnerships. And a key supplier is a good example of somebody who should become a partner. Again, in the construction industry, when HS2 started to happen in my local area, you could not buy concrete for love nor money. It just wasn't available. Bricks just weren't available. But if you'd had a relationship with the supplier, if you'd already told them, I want to come to you to buy my stuff. I promise you I won't go anywhere else. I want to come to you and I want to give you this order if I win the tender. Are you up for that? And can you reserve the stock for me? Yes. So now that supplier has moved from being a supplier to a key partner. And they understand if they don't let you down, they will get a huge order. Easy peasy for them, easy peasy for you. In other key partners, people who have slightly different skill sets work together to deliver a complete solution. And again, if you go into partnership with somebody, make sure stuff's well written down. Because partners can be people who have a loose affiliation. Oh, yeah, I know Charlie. Yeah, he sometimes does good jobs. And it can get more serious to the point of being a partnership where things are written down. So, again, have a think. Don't be caught out because no one wants to have a job and they can't get the materials they need. They can't get the resources they need. They can't get the people they need because they didn't think it through. Yeah, hindsight. What a wonderful thing. If I knew now, what I if I try and build hindsight in ahead of time. What do you do? Who do you do it with? And why would they want to work with you? And again, if you get a really big job, your partners may not actually be able to help you out. They say, "Oh, well, no, we've back to the care home. Yeah, you might need some agency staff. Well, actually, we've only got 25 on our books, and 15 of those are pretty much constantly in, constant demand. So I can only get you 10." So then the conversation moves on. If they've got any sense, the agency people would say, "Well, would you like me to look around, see if I can find another 30 in case you win the tender?" Or they might not be thinking about you at all, in which case you would need to say, "Oh, okay, thanks for the time," and you would go and look for somebody who can meet your needs. So key partners are very important for a business that's growing. If we look at the cost, what does stuff cost you? What do they care about? Um, some business models, it's very simple. You do more, it costs more. And for other businesses, they have resources which are typically underutilized, which means they can actually accept a lot more business and they don't break out into a sweat. Typically, um, people that have things in warehouses, they say, yeah, we can sell twice as much very easily. We just order twice as much in. Um, and it's really easy for us to scale. So you would need to understand, how do you buy things? What effect does it have on your bottom line? If you get a bigger job that's twice as big, do your costs double or is it less than that? Because when you understand all of these things, because you took the time and trouble to think about it, you'll be able to come up with all of the answers. So you need to know, what are your fixed costs? These are the ones that are always there. Your salary, people's salary generally. Because if you don't do any business at all, the costs are still there. If you have a building, the building is still there and you still have to pay for it. You still have to pay for heating and lighting and perhaps business rates and other things. And the reason they're called fixed costs is because they are fixed, regardless of how much you sell. But then you have a cost of sale. which will vary. You will have key resources which you may need to make bigger, beef them up, and other things may cost you more money. So have a have a think about all of that, because when you know, if you can picture in your mind's eye the left-hand segment about feasibility, and we said costs. If you think about all these things, you know how much it's going to cost. You're not guessing. You're not, oh, we'll put a bit in, a bit extra in just in case. Hopefully, you don't need to do that, and you can give your best price, knowing it covers all eventualities. And the other thing in the big box is sometimes when people win a big order because they haven't gone through the thought process, it's all a bit overwhelming, and they have to react quickly because actually they didn't think about it, and they need to buy more stuff. And actually, I thought it'd be easier to get hold of than this. And God, blimey, I've got to pay so much for this, and I didn't think I'd have to pay so much for this, but I didn't. Well, can you see that's a panic-driven, inefficient way of looking at your costs. What I'm suggesting is, um, I've seen a question that I don't quite understand, but I'll come back to it, Jonathan. So it's about how have you thought about this? Have you thought about it? And just make sure that you do. Because again, when you think it through thoroughly, it will be advantageous to you because you'll have a reliable supplier who will sell to you at a good price and you'll be able to keep control of your costs. So, social and environmental. We've said over here, this talks about what you're good at. It talks that you know you're able to do it, and it's all very kind of, yeah, this is kind of very functional, very business-like, and yes, that's good. But what we also need to consider is social value, ESG. It has many different names, and what people are now being urged to think about by bigger players such as councils and large corporates, and it's what some people do because they think it's good. They look after their staff, they look after the planet, they try not to waste things, they try and be good because they understand that us as mankind is in my personal opinion, we're not actually very good at this yet. We're not doing a great job of looking after the planet and the resources in the planet, Um, and so people probably feel that actually, yes, it would be good to do something positive on this. It might be that you have LED lights in your office. It might be that you absolutely put all of your waste into the correct bins for recycling and you minimize what goes to landfill. Um, it might be that the way you design your product actually minimizes waste in the first place. You may consider, where do your components come from? If you buy things in, do you buy them from far off places where the cost is good, like China, but the carbon footprint is less good? So, how do we balance that? How do we have a good business and yet have one that's cost effective? Have we thought about it? And are we in fact doing our bit? Um, because in, if I can say, in the olden days, many years ago, this just wasn't thought about. People didn't apply themselves to thinking about it. And actually, most people can normally come up with things that they are doing, possibly subconsciously or possibly because they want to help make the planet a better place for the planet and for the people on it. So have a think about that. Have a think about, what do you do? Like, if you mention diversity to 99% of business owners and say, do you employ the best person for the job, regardless of colour, creed, sex, or any other thing that you might be able to judge people by? And most people say, well, of course we do. Of course we get the best person for the job. It doesn't matter what their skin colour is. It doesn't matter male, female, age, or whatever. If they're the best person for the job, we hire them. Of course we do. So you get a tick in the box for diversity, but you need to explain it. You need to write it down, and you need to say something like I just said. Um, and inclusion is the same. If somebody came to work for you and they could do the job, but they were in a wheelchair, would that stop them working for you? Well, of course not. No, no, of course not. Of course not. We'd make a few changes if we had to, if that's what we needed to do. Yeah, of course we would. And so you can work down the list. Are your employees stressed out of their brains? Do you keep them there from 7 in the morning till 7 at night? Well, of course we don't. We look after them. We want them to enjoy working here. We want them to come back in the morning. So as you work down the list, you'll probably find that there's things that you are doing because you're, a nice, decent, honest, proper person. So, but the point is, you need to have thought about it. You need to acknowledge, hey, we're quite good at this actually, and you need to write it down because you will be asked. So it's bigger commercial customers are the ones who will ask you for it, and it will impact them because you may not know, but big companies actually have to put in their annual report, which is something small companies don't even bother with, but a large company has to produce an annual report and it has to state what their ESG goals and targets are, and it has to say how close it is in achieving those targets. So if you can say, we will help you achieve your ESG targets because, guess what? They say, here's a person who understands one of my problems. I'll have them work for me. So it's all about building trust. It's all about putting yourself in their feet, or in their shoes, I should say. So do you even know what their ESG policy is? Oh, and I've just realised I'm a little bit behind, so I need to scoot on because I now need to apologise that I'm keeping you behind. So it won't take long. We've said there is a strategy. Your value proposition is tied into an individual customer segment. We've said that you know how to contact that segment because you've thought about it. We know, therefore, that the value proposition is right and proper for that customer segment and will be successful, and we know how to deliver it, and we know how much we're going to charge them because we know all the things on the left-hand side. What does it take? Who's going to do it? When are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? What's it going to cost? So put all of that lot together and you have a viable, profitable business. And it's a strategy because you've thought about it before. And when you come to have a one-to-one session, which I encourage you to book, then you will be able to speak to a person like me and you'll be able to work these things out individually for yourself and your customer. You'll come away from the one-to-one session with an action plan. So in summary, it's a strategic tool. It's there to get you to understand how you can create the value, how you do it, and be able to get you to explain it and write it down and so on. And frankly, it just works. So we've also got other resources. We've said that you have a one-to-one session. It's an hour. It's confidential and they're really good. And we have a whole load of stuff that is online. So all of those things that you see on the left-hand side are available. We also have ebooks which are available. And here we are. You've registered for the program. We urge you to book a one-to-one advice session using this email address here, info@brandwin.co.uk. And then the benefit of going through the program is even if there isn't a tender, when you know what you want to do and you know who you want to sell it to, you can put in an expression of interest that says, I think you'd like to do business with me because I can offer you these benefits. So that's pretty much it. We've on the left hand side and the right hand side, or the left hand side is people that we've helped who have got massive, like they've just had massive success. It's brilliant. And the right hand side is the same. It's areas we've worked in. So that's it. And I'm sorry, if you don't mind me running on, for those of you that need to rush off, please do. For those of you that can stay on a minute longer, I will run through the questions. So there's not very many here. One from Indy. It says, does purpose always mean environmental? Could it be growing the economy? And I would say that yes, that's a great purpose. But when we separate ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, the two are in fact separate. So growing the economy is a great purpose, but people still want to see that you are caring for the environment, you are caring for your workforce, you are caring for the planet. So they work hand in hand, I think. Jonathan, it says, can you hold fire on the banner? I was noting the point, so I'm not sure what that is. If you want to come back to me with a chat, I can answer that better. Ba-dum. Okay, thank you for your comment, Marie. Yes, I'll see you at the MTB this afternoon, so you can ask me more questions. And yes, the slides will be available. My understanding is they won't be sent out per se, but there is a Branduin channel, and these and other recordings will be available, so you'll be able to walk through and you'll be able to go through the slides again at your own pace. Um, mm, mm, mm. Okay. Okay, so another one is how do we book the one-to-ones? If I reverse up a slide or two, then if we look on the right-hand side, that should come up on your screen. Hang on a minute. What's going on? The answer is info@branduin.co.uk. So if I can, no, it's not going to work. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Yes, info@branduin.co.uk is the way to book a one-to-one. If you just say that you were on this session this morning and you'd love to do a Harrow one-to-one, then that's the way to do it. So thank you everybody, and I'm so sorry. I I don't normally run over, but as you might tell, I'm quite enthusiastic about this stuff. So, and for those of you that are coming to the Harrow Meet the Buyer this afternoon, I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Thank you very much.